back on the week that was and forward to the week ahead. It's the Fantasy Football Hustle. Here are your hosts, Brian Drake and Dwayne McFarland.
Happy Friday night, one and all across the fantasy universe. What's going on? We usually don't talk to you on Fridays, but we figured, what the hell? It's the fantasy playoffs. Everybody's in a do-or-die situation, so why don't we come and help the folks out? I shot Dwayne a text, and he's like, hell yeah, man, I'm cracking a few and feeling real easy. Let's talk to the people. So, Dwayne, what's going on, man? Happy Friday.
Man, happy Friday. Yeah, no, happy to jump on. I know schedules don't always work out, but things were just aligned tonight. So I've had a few beers though, Drake, or drinks, not really beers, but so it'll be, I'll just be nice and loose.
Dwayne's got his guitar here. We're chilling. I got my Voodoo Ranger IPA. Dwayne's got something called, what is that? Colorado Mudslide, or what is that thing?
Colorado Bulldog. Yeah, it's, I just had a kind of a taste for something sweet. So we drink it when we go skiing, but it's a little bit of Coke, it's a little bit of milk, and then it's Kahlua and vodka. So The problem is they go down like milkshakes. So this is number 4 here.
Oh boy, that's cool.
You guys may be leaning on Drake tonight.
Oh boy, here we go. So what we're gonna do? We're just opening it up to you guys. There's no agenda. There's no schedule. We got nothing, kind of written up. We've got Dwayne playing some tunes. Whatever you guys ask, we're gonna try to give you the best answers we can. All right, let's start it off with our guy Pilates Freak. That's quite the name from Twitter. All right, Dwayne. Couti,
Pilates Freak. He sounds very fit.
Couti, Perriman, or Mike Williams in standard scoring?
Man, I think I may have to lean to Perriman just because, you'll have to monitor the injury report right up to the end, but it looks like Crowder's probably going to be out. I mean, he was a DNP today with a calf. And then you've already got Mims out for a personal thing. So I could just see Perriman getting absolutely peppered. But, if it wasn't for those things, I would easily just say Couti. Now, Couti, again, he's been limited all week, but it sounds like he's fine. Brandon Cooks has been limited all week too. But the one thing I will say with Couti, and I can't remember if we mentioned it on the show Tuesday or not, but is when they get in their 12, which is 2 tight ends, they get into their 13, which is 3 tight end packages, which the Texans will, they have a tendency where some games they'll only run 11 personnel like 45% of the time. In those cases, last week, Couti was not on the field. Now, for some reason, you read Brandon Cooks is out. Again, so you got to monitor the injury report. Then all of a sudden, Couti moves outside with Chad Hansen. They would play every single snap. So, but bottom line, I know Greg's like, hey, quick answer. Couti would be my guy if I knew that Cooks was out. But otherwise, I think I'm leaning to Perriman just by a smidge.
And make sure you give us your scoring if you can. If it's PPR, we're going to assume it's PPR if you don't. All right. Thanks for the awesome extra show. Thoughts on Mostert versus Dobbins versus Melvin Gordon? Guy already went up against Akers, so yikes. Sorry about that, pal.
Wow.
21, so it's not like
Akers in. That's pretty, yeah.
So what do you think? Mostert, Dobbins, Melvin Gordon.
I am leaning to Mostert slightly. So here's the thing with Dobbins. I went back and looked at his utilization. It wasn't in my article because the game happened so late in the week. And they really just went back to splitting things up too much. So, for example, number one, now Justice Hill's involved even more.
Oh,
so Justice Hill was getting packages. You had, from a rushing attempt standpoint, it was pretty much Dobbins and Edwards were splitting the top amount. Then you had Ingram being mixed in. And then you had Dobbins and Justice Hill really splitting the passing down work. And I like to look at first down snap, especially on rushing attempts, Drake, that can be a good, leading indicator as to, who is really the guy they want to give the ball to most. And there's just not enough separation right now between Dobbins and Edwards. So I'm a little hesitant on Dobbins. I will say I've got an FFPC team that's in the finals. And, man, I was so torn. Utilization totally said go with Akers. And I left Dobbins in on one of those teams. I did get Akers in on one of the teams, so that was good. But I should have really listened to my own data. So I didn't.
Let's keep it. Oh, sorry. The Uber Eats commercial here started. Sorry about that. I got to close that. All right. Let's see. Keep it rolling here. PPR.
Is that Randall Cunningham back there, Drake? I wish we had Randall Cunningham still today.
Yeah, man. I've got Randall Cunningham autographed. I got Brian Dawkins autographed. My good friends over at Fantasy Points. That's a John Hansen site. So shout out to Ben Kukanis. Got me a Joe Namath autographed. Really nice Steiner Sports autograph picture. So a lot of cool stuff back here, man. Well, one day we'll do like a behind the hustle. Just walk around the house.
I just have like some pictures that my daughter drew up there. Some stuff about music, some work stuff.
Oh my God. Dude, you guys gotta see if I could.
Now my son has a lot of cool autograph memorabilia up in his room. So one day, when he goes to college and we just don't want it all to be stolen, maybe I'll hang it back here and we'll put a big sign over it that says running backs don't matter, because I have an autograph of Barry Sanders.
Can you hear me now?
Jim Brown. Yeah, I hear you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I hear you.
Can you hear me? No?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, you can? I can't hear you. I don't know why. Oh, boy.
Well,
see, this is what happens. I try to mess around here. We'll just do the show. I just won't listen to Dwayne for the whole show. We'll see what's going on. Hang on. I'm going to kick Dwayne out and make him come back in to the hustle show here. So, see, this is what happens, folks, when you have a beer and you try to do things on the fly. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. We're good. We're back. I tried to mess around and move my computer and show you my bar that I have over here since we're talking about rooms, but people are like, just shut up and answer the questions at this point.
Yeah, seriously, dude. You're pissing people off. They're all going to be mad at you.
Sorry, guys.
All right, what are we on here?
All right, PPR. CMC ruined my lineup. Need one running back, one flex, Berrios if Crowder is out, Hansen, Pollard if Zeke is out, Booker if Jacobs is out, or Gurley. Needs a lot of upside. Boy, I can't play Berrios.
I don't think Zeke is going to be out. I think Zeke's going to play. And I think Jacobs is trending towards playing too. I could be wrong. I mean, it's 2 limited practices. Gurley, I just don't want any part of Gurley right now, man. He just doesn't look good. And it's really a 3-way split. So I'm out on Gurley unless I have to. So with CMC out, you need one wide receiver and one flex. So you don't even have to. Yeah, I'm fine with Berrios, right? If Crowder's out, I mean, that's going to be anywhere from 6 to 8 targets, if you need it. But again, like this is a tricky one, right? Because I mean, there's so many ifs. Like if Zeke's out, if Jacobs is out, right? I'm out on Gurley. If for some reason Zeke were out, I would be easily on Pollard, number 1. Number 2 would be, let's say Zeke and Jacobs happen to be out. Booker would be next for me, just because last week we saw that Jalen Richard can get heavily involved in a game plan, even with Josh Jacobs out. So I would be, on those guys.
All right, let's keep it rolling here. Rayco asks, PPR, 2 for the flex, Mike Davis, Jalen Reagor, Hollywood Brown, or Brandon Cooks.
I'm going with Mike Davis and Cooks, assuming Cooks is healthy. If Cooks for some reason has a scratch, I'm getting Hollywood in. He's on a little bit of a heater right now. He's seen 8 targets in each of the last 2 games. He scored a touchdown in each of the last 2 games. So that would be my next option.
Here's a real interesting one. I like this one from the FF Orthopod. Thanks for the show, guys. Awesome work. Oh, we appreciate the kind words. Is there any streamer you'd be starting over Kyler Murray? When you're looking in that range, maybe you're thinking Jalen Hurts, Stafford, Carr, Mayfield. Any of those guys you're going to play over Kyler Dwayne?
Not for me. And we talked about it a little bit on the show earlier this week. I can't say that like it's a predictive indicator, but last week is the first time in the last 3 weeks where they actually had, a few extra designed runs for Kyler, which could be a sign that he's getting a little bit more healthy. So I just don't see anyone, unless you're in a small league, like, like an 8-team league where there's somebody just ridiculous sitting on the wire. I'm going to stick, with Kyler. Like say for some reason, Tom Brady was sitting on the wire and we expect a shootout with Minnesota. I might lean to Brady, but otherwise, I mean, I'm just going to start Kyler, man. It's tough for him. I know he's been he's been a problem, right, for the last couple of weeks. But I feel good about seeing the specific rush plays they're calling for him, not just scrambles going up. I'm hoping that's a sign for better things to come.
Another QB question. Roll with Josh Allen versus the Steelers or start Tannehill? They're 6-point touchdown leagues.
Yeah, these are tough calls. That's a really good one because I struggle with these sort of calls. Typically, you just if it's a close call and you're not quite sure, you just roll with the better player. The thing is with Tannehill, like over the last 2 weeks, and if you look at his he's thrown as many touchdown passes as Josh Allen. Most people don't know that Josh Allen has more, rushing touchdowns, more rushing yardage than what Tannehill has, even though Tannehill can be good, on the ground. So Tannehill's got the better matchup. So here's what I would say. Like, if you're really just, you feel like, you need, the upside based on the matchup that you have, and you feel that Tannehill gives you that better top end, because he does, right? It's tough to project a really high top end, for Allen against the Pittsburgh defense. Then I would lean to Tannehill. But if you feel like it's, a matchup where you're looking at it and you're like, you think you're favored or you think it's going to be close, man, it's really hard to just bench your studs. I mean, Josh Allen, even against good teams, can easily come up with at least 1 touchdown passing and 1 touchdown rushing and, get to like 250 yards. Right. I mean, he's been pretty steady. It's not like Josh Allen has thrown up a bunch of stinkers this year. That was the problem with Allen in the past, right? You get a 30-pointer and then you get a 6-pointer. We haven't seen, those 6 and 10 and 12-point performances this year from Josh Allen.
And that's what would kill you if all of a sudden you lose in the first round of the fantasy playoff and you're like, oh my God, I got too cute. I tried to play Tannehill. I tried to play Baker Mayfield instead of playing the guy who brought me to the dance. And then he goes out and puts up 25 and you put in a guy that scores you, 15 and you end up losing by 5 points. So, what do you think about Taysom Hill this week? He's got the Eagles. I think he's been QB3 in fantasy since he's returned, since he's taken over that starting spot. I'm playing Taysom this week over, Big Ben. Would you play him over Brady?
I'd probably play Brady over him, but I would definitely play him over Big Ben. I mean, Brady gets the bye week. Right, you get a good matchup, or you expect some points to be scored. It's tough, I think he's just got the higher upside, than what Taysom has. But Taysom's got a great floor. I mean, you're probably going to get at least like 40 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. And then whatever he does on top of that is kind of just whether or not you end up with an okay day or a top 6 quarterback day. So I wouldn't blame anybody if they went with Taysom. But again, like, I study my matchups a lot, like more than most people. Like I look at my matchups and try to determine, how big of a dog or how big of, a favorite do I think that I am, or how close do I think I'm going to be. And then I do things, within my lineup as much as possible. Sometimes you can't really control it. You just got to go with who you have because you have injuries and other things. But I mean, I really, try to look at those things, especially when I'm in the playoffs. In the regular season, I don't overanalyze those things, but in the playoffs, for sure, I'm willing to. For the most part, though, you're going to start most of the guys that have gotten you here, right? You might make a couple little tweaks here and there.
Eric Hutchinson, who maybe Dwayne knows some of his music. Sanders, Chark, or Lamb in a standard league? I'm assuming that's Emmanuel Sanders.
Or Chark, or who?
Or CeeDee Lamb.
Chark. Chark, man, last week, Glennon's flinging it, and you got a good matchup against Tennessee. Their cornerbacks will give up a lot. I think Chark by far, like of all 3 of those guys, which one would surprise you the least if they showed up with a 5-catch, 120-yard, 2-touchdown stat line this week? It's Chark. Like, it's easily Chark. Yeah. He's the alpha on his team. He's also the guy that's most likely to get, 30% of the targets and 200 air yards. So I would easily go with Chark.
Here's one. This is a guy digging deep. Richie Rich, Duke Johnson, Ty Johnson, or Gio Bernard in a PPR. Got to have one.
Well, David Johnson's probably out due to being on the COVID list. So I go to Duke Johnson. I know it's not a great matchup with Chicago, but I'm going to depend on the PPR points. I'm assuming, PPR. Was it PPR, Derek? Yeah.
Yep,
okay.
PPR.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm assuming, 3 to 5 catches. for that. So that immediately I get 5 points, plus say 15 to 25 yards. So now I'm sitting at 7.5 points. Even if he's a crappy rushing day for 40 or 50 yards, right now I'm at 12.5 points. If he happens to score a touchdown, I'm getting close to 20. So it's tough for me to not go with Duke Johnson. Now, if for some reason, because I haven't heard if David Johnson actually has COVID or if it was just a close contact. So if all of a sudden he comes off the list, then, that would change my mind. Obviously, then I'm going to go away from Duke Johnson. Who are my other options? Sorry, Drake, I lost it in the chat.
Ty Johnson and Gio Bernard.
Yeah. So again, you're tied into, is Gore going to play or not? Gore practiced and then didn't practice. So if Gore's out, then Ty Johnson would be, my next in line. If you end up having Gore play and you have David Johnson play, then I lean to Gio Bernard, which I hate to say because I really don't want to start Gio in the playoffs. But he's, if it's PPR, again, he's going to get you 3 to 4 catches, 20 to 30 yards on that, at least 30 to 40 yards rushing. Could get a little more there, and you're hoping for a touchdown.
News broke earlier today about Julio Jones. They shut him down this week. There's talks that, hey, maybe they're going to shut him down going forward. I mean, the Falcons aren't playing for anything, so I run this guy out here on a bad hamstring. So our friend here on Twitter asks, Gage, Slayton, or Edmonds digging deep in a PPR? I was talking Chase Edmonds, Cardinals running back.
Here's the problem with Gage is even whenever we've had, Julio out, it hasn't necessarily been him. Now, Olamide Zacchaeus is out.
Yep.
He's kind of been a guy that stepped in and done some things, when Julio or Calvin Ridley has been out in the past. But it's tough for me to trust Gage. Edmonds, he's got a very narrow path, like to his points, unless for some reason the hip issue with Kenyon Drake pops up Sunday morning and he's out, right? So who is my third option, Drake? Sorry, this is before Colorado Bulldogs.
Darius Slayton from the Giants, who hasn't done jack shellac in about a month and a half.
Yeah, Slayton's out there on the field, but man, this passing offense goes through Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard now, so it's tough for me to put Slayton out there. I think that, man, dude, I'm not starting Edmonds and I'm not starting Slayton. So there's your answer.
All right. Marcus Severns, another guy following us on Twitter, wants to know Kiki Couti or T.Y. Hilton. Here's a couple of names who, 2-3 weeks ago, you never thought you'd be firing up in a fantasy football playoff lineup. So, wowza. All right, Kiki or T.Y., who's, always the threat to score. But in my mind, if I'm choosing between these two, I think I'm going to play Couti.
Yeah. If Couti, we know he's healthy, then I'm going to play him. But it is a close call. And if for some reason you got to go with T.Y., I think you're okay. Here's the thing with T.Y. that most people don't know. I mean, he's still in that 70 to 80% route range, which is about where Couti is going to be, even working out of the slot. Say they get to run 11 or more 12 personnel, he could end up down, in the 60s, but typically, over the last several weeks, Houston, their defense can't stop anybody. They end up needing to run 11 personnel probably, more often than not. So, yeah, I would lean to Couti, and then I would go with T.Y.
Let's see. All right, my son here he's checking out the questions. So, Derek, do you want to read the next question?
Is it the one that you're pointing
at? Let's see. Let's find you one here. Try to find one without some crazy name in it. All right. Here we go. From Thomas Welch, from new YouTuber Derek Drake. Yeah. Here, read this, pal.
I don't.
Good. It's all weird. All right. Kiki Couti or Curtis Samuel, or do I go Gio over Miles Sanders? So he needs a receiver.
I'm not doing Gio over Miles, but I am going Curtis Samuel there because it looks like DJ Moore's probably going to be out. Again, this is a weird week. Like there's a lot of guys where you're going to have to watch. Are they going to get to play or are they not going to get to play? But right now. And here's the problem with Moore, because he's on the COVID list, they don't have to tell us really how his ankle looks, because obviously he can't be at the practice, but we have no clue if his ankle's even right. So if all of a sudden he comes off the COVID list, for all we know, he would have been a DNP all week. I'm leaning to Curtis Samuel.
See you in the morning, buddy. That's what happens when you do an impromptu show when the kids are getting ready for bed. Hey, Sid Luckman is watching the show. How about that? I'm talking about Joe Namath autographs, and here we got Sid Luckman watching the show. Apparently he's playing fantasy. He wants to know, start Amari Cooper and Evans over Chubb in a PPR.
No. I'm starting Chubb. Man. Like he's too high right now. He gives you 150-yard, 2-touchdown upside, every week. They all have similar floors, and I think I think Chubb has the highest ceiling. That's the way I look at it, right? Mm-hmm. I get it. Kareem Hunt's involved, but with Mike Evans, you got 2 other receivers and a tight end involved. So, they all have their own challenges. So give me the guy with the most upside. All right. I'm elated to be starting Chubb, like in the leagues where I was able to get in that I own him and make it through his injury. Like he looks great, man. He looks phenomenal.
Yeah, and they're going to feed him the rock. All right, M Cub 0520. I never understood shows. I should stop doing that when they just try to read like these really weird Twitter handles. And it's like, all right, let's go to the questions. It's like, all right, the panty burglar 69871 asks, blah, 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 blah. What? It doesn't matter. But all right, tight end question. Hunter Henry versus Atlanta or Dallas Goddard versus the Saints?
I'm going to go with Hunter Henry. I'm just worried about Goddard continuing to evolve more into a true rotation with Ertz. And I think that Henry, we know he's going to be in that 70 to 80% of the routes, run range. So I'm going to go with Henry there. Just for the fear of, I feel like Ertz is going to inch up a little bit more. And Drake, you jump in. You're the Eagles fan. You get to listen to what's going on there all week. So you may have a better take than me on this one.
You just don't know. You don't know who Jalen Hurts is going to target. You don't know how many snaps this Eagles offense is going to get. New Orleans is pretty good, mind you, defensively. What if this is a game where the offense just doesn't click, they don't string together a bunch of first downs, and they just don't run a lot of plays? That's very well in the range of outcomes. Or they could trail, by 20 and the game's over. But again, you're going to also, I think, get a faster paced game because I don't see Taysom Hill throwing the ball 40 times. So I think this clock is going to be moving. So you might not get a lot of possessions. I would also go Hunter Henry. I have that exact lineup question in the league myself. Let's see. Flex question. Dwayne, are we going your boy Swift, who I think is going to play this week, or McLaurin? He says McLaurin feels like the higher floor / safer bet.
I'm going McLaurin. We just don't know enough about Swift. Like Swift 3 weeks ago was busting out, but now, he's had to spend all this time away from the team, still recovering. I just worry that he's not going to walk back to his full complement, right, of where, we thought he was 3 weeks ago as far as his playing time and his role. Just like what we saw happen with J.K. Dobbins the other night. He still had an increased role from where he was earlier in the season. But the week before he was out with COVID-19, he had pretty much taken over his backfield too. And he came back to really, more of a 3-way split. He obviously was getting more than Mark Ingram, but, he had to split his carries with Gus Edwards. So I just worry that Swift's going to be in the same situation, especially if they're concerned about his health, like at all. The season's pretty much over the line. I think they have a slight chance at like a wild card bid because how bad like so many teams are this year. I don't know what their mathematical chance is. So, they could come out like all cylinders firing, but at the same time, even if they do that, I just worry that Swift is going to be more in like this 30 to 40%, right, capacity, type of role versus that 55, 60% we were seeing him push for before, all of the weeks missed.
Let's jump back to the quarterbacks. Bobby Schmerda, Brady or Justin Herbert? So you got this, the greatest of all time against the rookie of the year. Who are you going with?
Great question. Man, honestly, that one, like, I'm not going to blame you. Either way you go, I have both of those guys in my top 5 quarterbacks this week. So when it comes down to that, like, it's really hard, to slice and dice and say, hey, I got to go with this guy or the other guy. But honestly, here, Drake, I'm going to look. Like, I have a team where they're both together. And I had to make this decision earlier. And I have Justin Herbert in. So, yeah. But I mean, it's really close. Like, I wouldn't blame somebody. You could make an argument to me so easily for Brady. You could make an argument to me so easily for Herbert. Here's what I would say. Both guys have upside, and I could still switch this before Sunday. Brady, as far as, touchdown passes, I think his floor and the chance of him having just an absolute crap game, I think is lower, right, than Herbert's. But Herbert is just, we know he's just routinely put up these 30, 35-point performances, and he's got better legs. So he's playing against a Falcons defense that just gives up a ton, through the air. I mean, so do the Vikings. But the Vikings are a team that they can, if they get out to a lead, they can also milk the clock with their running game. Now, Tampa's got a pretty good run defense. So, I mean, they've typically, been able to hold teams down in that regard. So, again, I wouldn't blame somebody for going the other way. It's really close. I have Herbert in out of those two right now.
It's an interesting one. I like this. Miles Sanders or J.K. Dobbins this week?
Man, I'm still leaning to Sanders just because, I mean, he's getting more of the work. We know he's at least going to play 50 to 60%, of the snaps. We know he's going to see about half to slightly over half of the attempts, and we know he's going to see right around half of the routes. With Dobbins right now, we really don't know. He could see a third of the attempts, a third of the routes. He wasn't out there on long down and distance last week. He didn't get the 2-minute drill work. That all went to Justice Hill, which is concerning. Like, you got 4 backs involved now. So I've got to lean to Sanders. I would love to say J.K. Dobbins, believe me. Like, I feel much better about J.K. Dobbins' team overall. I feel better about him as the player right now. So I would love to lean towards him, but I think you could really still end up with a game where, Dobbins only gets 6 or 7 touches, right? And then that's problematic, whereas, Miles Sanders, I know we've had a game like that in the last 3 weeks from him, but most likely you're going to be at 12 to 15 touches and you have some upside from there. Whereas Dobbins, I think, your floor is like, 7 or 8 touches, his ceiling could be 15 to 20 touches, but we just don't know. Based on the way he was used this last week, I would say it's more like 12 or 13.
You guys always ask us, hey, can you guys do more DFS content? Like, can you do a DFS show? Oh, we're listening. We're not oblivious to those thoughts. Maybe we don't have all the time in the world for it, but we have some really smart friends who do. So next Friday, we're going to unveil kind of a test show with our buddies Ryan Reynolds and Couti Main. You may read some of their work over at Establish the Run. They're going to do a little fantasy football hustle DFS podcast, and I may slip in there and talk with them, Dwayne as well. So we'll just want to throw that out there. If you want a little DFS, you're out of the playoffs, let's win a couple of bucks. Your boys are here for it. So watch for that around this time next week. What are you playing, Dwayne? What do you got over there?
Just messing around, man. Just messing around. That's like just kind of a riff I've been working on. You want me to play something special for you, Drake?
Yeah, please. In honor of Taylor Swift dropping her new album.
Oh my God. Zoe, my daughter, would love that. She could probably come in here and sing and do it.
I like Taylor Swift. I'm not gonna lie. My wife's a fan. Like I said this.
My daughter loves her.
I think I said this to Curtis Patrick today on Twitter. Taylor Swift is so incredibly driven and talented. Like, of all the haters out there who are against her for whatever reason, like, if you had 1/10 of her ability, like, you'd be a millionaire because she's that good. But again, we're talking fantasy football, not Taylor Swift. All right, hey, how about this one? PPR already starting McKissick. Need one other running back from Miles Sanders, CEH, or Duke Johnson. My question would be, why are you automatically starting McKissick? So maybe we can have that talk.
Yeah, I think with McKissick, you still need to think that it's going to be a trailing game script. He's probably going to pick up a little bit more work. I think he'll take over most of the passing work that Antonio Gibson leaves behind. And then I think, which really most of it was going to Mckissick anyway, but I think what little that Gibson was getting will go to Mckissick. And I think you're going to see a lot of Antonio Gibson's rushing opportunities go, to Peyton Barber. So again, with Washington, it's still going to come down to what do you think the game script's going to be? Do you think they're going to be leading? Do you think it's going to be close? Do you think they're going to be trailing? And if you have convictions around one of those things, then you can easily decide what to do with Mckissick. If you really think they're going to be trailing or in a back and forth, up and down the field kind of game, then McKissick's fine. If not, it's tougher. As far as Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes, you got a 3-way rotation. I mean, it sucks, man. It really sucks for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We've talked about it like 2 or 3 weeks ago on the show. We talked about it multiple times, but the big problem for Clyde Edwards-Helaire is Darrell Williams, not Le'Veon Bell. Darrell Williams still staying involved in long down and distance, getting out there in the 2-minute drill. And then that means that, you've basically got Clyde Edwards-Helaire getting about 50% of the carries, right? About 30% of the routes, which could still be okay, right? If they're leading the game, that can grow for him. But if it's a close game or if they're trailing, it's really problematic. And then, Le'Veon Bell is going to get about 25 to 30%, of the attempt. So it's problematic. So if you feel really good that McKissick's going to be in a trailing situation, I got no problem with doing that. But if you're torn on it, I'm just going to lean to the better offense. Who was the third option, Drake? I know we said CEH.
Duke Johnson.
Duke Johnson. Yeah. Now, Duke Johnson goes immediately to the top of the chart if David Johnson, is out this week. I mean, it's easy. You just pick Duke Johnson. I know the matchup's not good with Chicago, but you have to go with the volume. You go with, who's going to get the volume. And we know Duke Johnson is basically game script proof. It's not as far as his box scores, but as far as his underlying utilization is it's foolproof whenever David Johnson's out. Like, he's going to run 70% of the routes. He's going to get 70% of the carries. He's going to be out there for like 80% of the snaps, long down and distance, 2-minute work. He gets all of it.
It's amazing how so many of these questions have the same players in them. Like, we always see there's a lot of Couti questions, a lot of Miles Sanders, a lot of Gio Bernard, Duke Johnson. So I guess it's a good thing all you guys made the playoffs, but you have a question mark after question mark here. Let's see here. Let's go to the quarterback question. Pick two QBs here: Stafford, Hurts, Rivers, and Taysom Hill. For me, I'm putting Taysom Hill in there easily.
Yeah, Taysom Hill and Stafford for me.
Let's see. Stafford, Detroit. They're playing Green Bay.
Yep.
So they're going to have to throw a ton in that one. I wonder if you can play some Freebird. Request.
Oh, we're taking requests for free. Yeah, this is the obligatory Freebird. The person screaming that in the audience.
Let's see. Hey, guys, thoughts on starting Jacobs? Need a flex. Parker, Pittman, Hilton, or Couti in a 0.5 PPR. Now, you mean Josh Jacobs, and he looks like he's trending towards playing, but I mean, you can never trust this guy.
If Jacobs is gonna play, I mean, I think you got to use him. But as far as the flex between Parker, Pittman, Hilton, or Couti, my order would be Parker, Couti, Hilton, Pittman. You can flip flop Pittman and Hilton. Pittman's seeing slightly more routes. Hilton's been getting a little more of the target share over the last couple of weeks. But that's just such a spread out offense. The thing I like about Parker is it's pretty much down to everything is flowing through him and Gesicki, right? Mm-hmm. And Gaskin. With Couti, as long as the knee is okay, I can't remember if Couti was the knee or the foot. Brandon Cooks may have been the knee or the foot. I may have him backwards, but Couti would be, next for me. So it's Parker, Couti, and then your choice of the Colt receiver. But if Jacobs is playing, I got to get him in.
Pick two: Deebo Samuel, Couti, Parker, and there's an Antonio Brown popping up. I think Antonio Brown's going to have a sneaky good game this week in a shootout with the Vikings. And where Godwin's, got the hand issue, and Evans is, is walking wounded. I like AB, but, the other guys are good options too. What do you think, Dwayne?
I'm going with Debo and Parker, but if somebody wants to slip in AB, I'm okay with it. AB dropped down to like 3 targets in the last game, but he had 2 before that with 8, and then he had 1 that was over 10. So we know Brady's willing to go to him. It's just all underneath stuff. So, I'm fine. I would go Parker, but I don't blame somebody if they flip, Parker for AB. I'm fine with it.
I like this question here. I got to look up and see who they're playing. Dwayne might know this off the top of his head, but he wants to know, should I target Cowboys opponents defense weeks 15 and 16? The Cowboys in the final weeks play the 49ers and the Giants.
Yeah,
excuse me, the Eagles and the Giants. 16 and 17.
See, that's the problem. It's the Eagles and the Giants. The Giants I might trust, a little bit more.
Giants are week 17. It's the way the freaking Google puts it up here. You're looking at the 49ers in 15 and the Eagles in 16. My apologies.
Yeah, it depends on what else is on the wire, to be honest. Like, if I could still use like Seattle, I'd rather play Seattle against Washington, right, than the 49ers versus Dallas. That's just me, because I think they have a chance to jump out on them. Here's what you're looking for in these defenses is I want a team that can jump out to a lead, and I know the other team, when they get into that situation, is willing to drop back and pass a lot, and that's just more opportunities for sacks, forced fumbles, and picks. Mm-hmm. I get it. It could be chances for more touchdown passes and all those sort of things as well for the offense. But if I'm like literally scrounging the bottom of the barrel, I want to take the defense that's going to play against the team that I think is most likely, in my mind, going to be willing to drop back and pass the most. Mm-hmm. Now, again, take it into context. You don't want to put anybody out there against Patrick Mahomes, but your typical run-of-the-mill, middling quarterback, right, in the NFL, like your Matt Staffords, your Matt Ryans. Playing, defenses against those guys is great, because they're going to drop back a ton. They could put up a lot of points on you, because they can do that, but they also can take a lot of sacks. They can throw you a pick six. Those are the sort of things that you're looking for. Dallas is willing to run the ball if they can. If they can get out to, a situation where they keep the game close or they get ahead, they're very much willing to run it right now, because their offensive line is obliterated. Now, if they all of a sudden end up down by 17 points, yeah, you could see, some sacks. But it's if you've watched them, Drake, it's like all dink and dunk quick passes underneath. I was looking for a pick six from one of the Ravens, defensive backs this last week, because I felt like Dalton was just telegraphing, his throws, but it didn't happen. You want the next thing you're looking for is teams that are willing to push the ball down the field, because they have quarterbacks that'll hold the ball longer. That gives you a better chance of a sack, and also typically passes down the field are more likely to be picked, because they're typically into double coverage, because you have a safety and a corner.
We know our team's better than any. How about next week when the Eagles go on the road to the Arizona Cardinals? Games in Arizona. You're going to have an Eagles team with Jalen Hurts. Last week the Eagles gave up 5+ sacks. Offensive line's bad. Jason Peters now out for the year. Starting some, shaky rookies like Jack Driscoll. And if Hurts likes to run a lot, even if he gets tackled behind the line of scrimmage scrambling, it counts as a sack. So, I like that for next week if you're kind of looking ahead. All right. A lot of Miles Sanders talk, man. People are just hating the Eagles running back. Miles Sanders, Dobbins, or Chark in a standard league. Got to sit one. Who you sitting? Sanders, Dobbins, Chark.
Probably Dobbins. I'm playing Chark out of those. If you decide you want to go with Dobbins over Sanders, again, I don't have an issue. I do think that Sanders is going to see more of the volume. But I get it. Like, Dobbins has got the better matchup, might be more likely to score the touchdown. So again, I'll let you flip your coin on that, but Chark is definitely in.
Love this question from Dave Gentile. Hey guys, I have a bye this week, but I've been patching together RB2 the entire season. Are there any of the following guys worth stashing in a PPR for weeks 15 and 16? Rashad Penny, Carlos Hyde, Frank Gore, Ty Johnson, Snell, AP, Jeff Wilson Jr., blah, 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 blah. I've tweeted about this a couple of times, and I know we've talked about it off air about Rashad Penny. They're talking about kind of managing the workload of Chris Carson. He's got this midfoot sprain. Hyde, the walking wounded also. It would not shock me at all if people are playing Rashad Penny in their fantasy championship game. Wouldn't shock me in the slightest.
Yeah, and backs can just, we know the injuries are there. Here's my problem with Snell. We've kind of already seen it, right? We saw where James Conner was out for 2 games, and we didn't, Snell sucks, just didn't play well. I really don't want to deal with the Jets, to be honest. But of the 2 that I would say the 3 stashes I would make out of that list, it would be what you said. It would be Penny, and I've got him stashed on multiple FFPC teams right now. Then I would say it's Jeff Wilson Jr., and then I would say it's Ty Johnson. I'm not crazy about the Jets, but you just have to give Ty Johnson credit. He did get 100 yards. We know he can also be a plus in the passing game. And that's the biggest thing, is if Ty Johnson can kind of take that backfield over, you could be looking at a 4 to 5 reception floor every week, and then you just get added on points, from there. But if I'm looking at any one of these guys that I think, oh my God, like if one of these guys hit and they could win my league, I'm with you. It's Penny.
All right, let's see here. Our old pal, friend of the show, Corey Richmond. Gus Edwards or Ty Johnson worth a flex play? To me, it's Ty Johnson. If Gore's out, he's
to me, it's probably it's Ty Johnson if Gore's out. If Gore plays, I would rather not play either one of those guys, but I think Corey plays in some pretty deep leagues. So, like, if I have to pick between the 2, I'm probably going with Ty Johnson, because I do think he's going to continue to handle the 2-minute work. He'll get more of the long down and distance. I think he will see slightly more work than he had. I can't believe I'm saying that to start a Jets running back, but it's just the problem with Baltimore is it's a 4-person committee now, like 4. It was already terrible when it was 3, but now it's 4, and really it's 5 because the quarterback runs. So, like, to me, Baltimore is like a complete shot in the dark right now.
All right, Max W. Got to sit one. Zeke, Swift, A.J. Brown, Ayuk, or Godwin?
I'm not sitting A.J. Brown. I'm not sitting Godwin. I'm not sitting Zeke against the Cardinals, assuming he plays. So I think it's really it's Ayuk or Swift is your choice. And they're close. They're close. If Swift is playing, and so here's what I would say. Like, if you're needing, if you feel like, oh my gosh, I need the upside, and you're just hoping Swift comes back to his old role, then go with Swift. If you're just banking on the safer floor, the guy that you think is going to play the whole game, now he may not get a ton of receptions, but he could get 8 to 10 targets, right? And that's Ayuk. So that's the way I would play those 2. But there's no way I'm benching A.J. Brown, Godwin, or Zeke, unless Zeke is out.
Give us a little something here, Dwayne. Let's hear a little stroll.
What do you want to hear?
Whatever you play. Hey, you guys don't know, Dwayne actually plays a little music. You work kind of in a band, right? You guys do some.
Yeah, I would say it's like a band, but yeah. Yeah, we get together and we play in front of people, and people actually are willing to pay us for it. But we don't play like all the time. It's more just for kind of just to let stuff out. So, but what kind of music do you like, Drake?
Death metal Christian.
Death metal Christian. I'm probably out on that.
I'm thinking the County Crows. Those guys. Acoustic OAR.
That's Weezer, right? Say It Ain't So.
There it is.
I don't know really what you guys like. Like, mostly I like to make up like my own stuff. So like this is one that I've been working on.
feel like there's a old folksy song coming in, like there's a man walking down the road with a body in his trunk, kind of thing like that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sing. So that one's got lyrics, but we're working it out.
All right. Hey, Val K. I wonder if they enjoyed our Tombstone episode. How do you feel about Amari, T. Higgins, Chark?
Amari, T. Higgins, and Chark.
Start one, I guess. Half PPR.
I'm going Chark, man, again, but Amari would be my other one that I wouldn't blame you. But it's one of those two. For me, it's Chark.
In a PPR, need 2 flex plays. So it looks like we're sitting 2 of these guys.
Man, a lot of the same guys on these, huh? Couti on a ton of these, Dobbins on a ton of these.
Yeah, these guys it's all Couti, it's all Miles Sanders. Mostert, Dobbins, Connor, Couti. Got to play 2, sit 2.
All right, hang on. I'm just looking at something real quick. Mostert, we got San Francisco. Okay, and then I've got Dot. I want to look at Connor. Okay. Yeah, I am going with, this is PPR. Yeah, I'm going with Connor and I'm going with Couti. Now, if I'm worried about, if we hear more like, Couti's not going to be 100%, then I'm switching from him to Mostert.
I love that my wife just sends a text. I have a question for the hustle. Can you put your children to bed? All right, so we're going to wrap this one up pretty soon.
You should
All right, let's get a
answer
couple more here. Hollywood, Corey Davis, T.Y. or Goddard in the flex from Joey.
Corey Davis.
Are you going Corey Davis? We did that one. Sorry. All right, tight end question. Half point PPR. We going Hawk or Andrews?
Andrews.
Need 3.5 point PPR. Dobbins, Taylor, Jonathan Taylor, that is, Swift or Gallman. So you got to sit one of those guys.
I have to sit one of these. I am sitting. Oh my God, these guys are like you're playing Gallman. Isn't that funny that Gallman's like the first name you're starting out of these? So half point. Man, I'm probably leaning to. I'm starting Taylor because he's been getting a little more playing time. So Gallman and Taylor are in. And man, you can make the call on Swift and Dobbins. Man, they're the same thing, right? Both those guys are playing probably 30 to 40% of the snaps. And
I'm playing Dobbins.
It's just hard to say like who's gonna come through with a score or what game script's gonna work out right for either guy.
Yeah.
So
it's like, yeah, you're going to get vultured by AP or Lamar Jackson. So
I do think that Dobbins, I do think that Swift, like if there's something we've missed, like in the news about him potentially having his full rollback, I mean, that would obviously change things for us, but I haven't read that.
A good friend of the show, Fighting Chance fantasy writer
Lauren and Evans.
Brad, you can follow him at FF Cheesehead. He's chiming in here, wants to know Miles Sanders, Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans. Which 2 do you got?
McLaurin and Evans. You?
Yeah. I like to always have the running back in there, but you just don't know what you're going to get out of this Eagles offense at this point. So, I can't go there. All right. Zach Cohn wants to know in a 1/2 point PPR, pick 1. Hollywood Brown, Tyler Boyd, Debo or Lazard. All right, definitely not Lazard. Scratch him.
Pick 1. I'm going to go Debo.
All right, let's keep it cruising here. Another tight end question. Goddard versus Reed versus Logan Thomas. He's coming on a little bit lately.
Man, 2 weeks ago, it would have been easy. You just said Goddard, right? Now they're all three in a situation where Logan Thomas is going to run the most routes. And to your point, he's been hot over the last – when I say hot, it's not like he's going for huge yardage, but he's getting quite a few looks. So out of those guys, though, I am going to still lean to Goddard slightly, Drake, man. Mm-hmm. But, I'm going Goddard.
You guys should be following us on Twitter. The show is at FF Hustle. The pinned tweet there will bring you to our new T-shirt page. You want to check that out. A lot of cool Hustle swag. Pick one up for the holidays. I've grabbed one or two myself. I'm at Drake Fantasy. He's, of course, at Dwayne McFarland. All right. Let's see here. Curtis Samuel or Marvin Jones in a half-point PPR?
I'm going with Marvin Jones. Jones has had just enormous targets every week, pretty much for the past 4 weeks. You just got to roll with it. I know it's not a great matchup this week, but the volume's going to be there.
Potential pickups: Tony Pollard or Chet Hansen or Gabe Davis?
Depends on what you're looking for. I think Pollard has the most, upside. If you need a person to start this weekend, I would say it's Hansen. I don't like Davis's matchup with the Steelers this week, but he could still pop for a 40-yard touchdown.
True that. All right, folks, I appreciate it. My wife is going to kill me literally because I'm not down there putting the kids to bed. So we hope this helped a little bit. We wanted to hop on. So enjoy the rest of your Friday night. Good luck in the playoffs. Dwayne, can you play us out with something?
Sure. I'll play you out. All right, go. So you guys probably so we'll play something that I know Drake doesn't even know. You want me to sing, Drake? Is that what you're going for?
I'll pick up right after.
Does anybody here know who Jason Isbell is?
I know him.
All right. Couldn't be happy in the city at night. Can't see the stars for the neon light. The sidewalk is dirty and the river is worse. Underground trains all running reverse. Nobody else here can dance like me. Everybody's clapping on the 1 and the 3. Am I the last of my kind? Am I the last of my kind? There you go, Drake.
There it is, folks. Multi-talented right there. Dwayne McFarland, bringing the chops. We appreciate it. All right, folks, go kick some ass in your playoffs. I'm going to go put my kids to bed before my wife breaks one of my guitars over my head. So we'll talk to you next week, guys. See you then. Never get out hustled and kick some ass.